The story opens on a dark night, in a city where, over the past few days, more than 10 people have suddenly gone missing. Everything seems normal. Just then, a man on the phone tells someone in a distressed voice that he can't repay a loan right now, while an unknown man walks behind him. Within seconds, the situation changes. The unknown man stops him, asks his name, and kills him without any warning. The next scene is even more disturbing. A secret lab where that same man lies on an operating table, his limbs bound, his blood slowly being drained. Standing in front of him is a doctor, perfectly composed, as though this is all routine for him. This is Woo-gyeom, a doctor who believes that death itself is a disease, and that he has found its cure. But the price of that cure is human life. While he's performing the operation, the police burst into the lab. Everyone is ready for a violent confrontation. But Woo-gyeom doesn't resist at all. He simply raises his hands, as if he knew this was coming. Prosecutor Cha-yeon is shocked to see him, because Woo-gyeom calls her by name, meaning he already knew her. Even so, there's neither guilt nor fear on his face, only a strange sort of calm. As the police take him away, Woo-gyeom casually says, "Don't have my patient treated by any other doctor, or he'll never recover." And indeed, the moment the police check on that patient, he suddenly regains consciousness. On the other side, we meet Han-jun, a successful defense lawyer who handles criminal cases. The media questions him about his client's case, but Han-jun handles it all smoothly. But his personal life is far from all right. His little daughter Min-soo is suffering from a rare and incurable illness, Batten disease. His wife is a doctor herself, yet even she can't save their daughter. For Han-jun, law and justice have all become secondary. Now only one thing matters: his daughter's life. Meanwhile, a man named Moon Seok tells him about a mysterious company that claims to have developed a cure for his daughter's disease. But when Han-jun tries to contact the company, he gets no response at all. A reporter tells Han-jun that a serial killer who has murdered 17 people wants to hire him, and that killer is none other than Woo-gyeom. The most shocking part is that Woo-gyeom has also killed Moon-seok. Han-jun immediately decides to meet him. When the two come face to face, the tension is clearly palpable. Han-jun asks him directly, "Why did you kill Moon-seok? And what happened to the cure?" Woo-gyeom calmly replies that he doesn't know about any cure, but he can treat Han-jun's daughter. For a second, everything stops for Han-jun. He's stunned, because Woo-gyeom knows everything about his daughter. Woo-gyeom makes him an offer: "Take my case, and in return, I'll cure Min-soo." And it's not just talk. He immediately transfers millions of dollars into Han-jun's account. Now, Han-jun is trapped in an impossible situation. On one hand, his duty as a lawyer means he should see a killer punished. On the other hand, there's his daughter's life. Meanwhile, the investigation deepens. Prosecutor Cha-yeon interrogates Woo-gyeom. Woo-gyeom confesses that he committed 17 murders, but in his view they aren't murders, they're sacrifices. 17 lives were lost, he says, but he can save everyone in the whole world. He can cure all the diseases that have no cure. The police discover that the same experimental drug had been used in every victim's body, a drug that is still officially being developed in America. Yet Woo-gyeom had already been using it. It becomes clear that Woo-gyeom is no ordinary criminal, but a genius. In the past, he was a top student at medical school, but after an accident, he spent 3 years in a coma. And after that, everything changed. Checking his victims' profiles reveals another shocking detail. Every single one of them was a criminal, as though Woo-gyeom had deliberately chosen them. On the other side, to learn the truth, Han-jun begins meeting Woo-gyeom's patients. The first case is a boy who had been suffering from incurable polio, and when Han-jun meets him, the boy is walking on his own 2 feet, completely normal. Seeing this, all of Han-jun's logic and beliefs are shaken, and he begins to wonder whether Woo-gyeom really has created a cure. Cha-yeon too keeps up her investigation. Woo-gyeom finally reveals that he buried the bodies on Chang Mountain. The police go there and recover all the bodies. But Woo-gyeom's attitude still doesn't change. He feels no regret, nor any fear. Then, smiling, he tells Cha-yeon to come over to his side. Right after this, Han-jun stands before Sung-woo. In his eyes, there's just one question. "Tell me the truth. Were you really cured of polio?" But both Sung-woo and his mother stay silent. There's fear on their faces, as if they want to tell everything but can't speak. On the other side, Prosecutor Cha-yeon announces in a meeting with her team that the bodies of Woo-gyeom's 17 victims have been recovered. All the proof is strong, but there's a twist. Woo-gyeom hasn't demanded a reduction of his punishment. Instead, he has demanded that he be allowed to present his research in court. But Cha-yeon's decision is clear. He will get nothing but the death penalty. Here, Han-jun meets Woo-gyeom again for one last confirmation. "The boy I saw, was it you who cured him?" Woo-gyeom says that his patients always doubt him at first, but once they take treatment from him, They come to believe in him. Then he reveals his past. He'd been in a car accident which left him in a coma for 3 years, and afterwards strange mutations began to occur in his body. He survived, but with unbearable pain. The kind of pain that was slowly breaking him, and that's where his experimentation began. First, he experimented on his own body, and then he began searching not only for his own cure, but for a cure to every incurable disease. The next day, the day of the court hearing arrives. Outside, people are shouting to hang the murderer, and they also question Han-jun about how he can be defending a murderer. Inside the courtroom, Chaeyeon argues aggressively that Woo-gyeom's motive wasn't research but revenge. She proves that one of his victims was the very driver who had caused his accident. And her most important point, if this was research, then why was there any need to cut the bodies into pieces? Silence falls over the courtroom. Woo-gyeom gives an evil smile, which convinces people all the more that he is a psychopath. Seeing the situation, Han-jun makes a risky move. He asks the judge for time, saying he'll bring to court the 6 survivors who were cured because of Woo-gyeom. The court agrees, but as soon as the hearing ends, Han-jun meets Woo-gyeom and tells him the truth, that he'd said all this only to buy time, and that he doesn't have solid proof of any survivor. Then he asks him directly why he cut the bodies into pieces. Woo-gyeom's answer is simple. In research, frogs get dissected too. At this moment, Han-jun realizes that this man is not only a genius, but also a dangerous psychopath. If his experiment had failed, he might have killed even more people. Still, Han-jun has no other choice. If Woo-gyeom gets the death penalty, then Min-soo's cure won't be possible either. So, together with reporter Jo, he sets out to find the survivors. He also has an article published aimed at shifting public opinion in their favor, indirectly targeting Chaeyeon. But Chaeyeon handles the situation with ease. Here, an interesting connection is revealed. Chaeyeon had once been Han-jun's student. The next day, in a meeting with the judge, an important point is under discussion. The murders have been proven, but if they were for research and the cure is real, the punishment could change. This becomes a source of hope for Han-jun. But just then, another problem arises. Chaeyeon has Han-jun's office raided. The situation gets messy, but Han-jun somehow keeps it under control. Meanwhile, they learn of only 2 confirmed survivors, Sung-woo and a blood cancer patient, and a third case that hits Han-jun personally, a patient whose Batten disease had been cured, the same disease that Min-soo has. Now Han-jun tries to convince Sung-woo's mother, but she refuses. She doesn't want to bring her son's secret out into the open. The blood cancer patient also refuses. Now Han-jun has no other option left, so he meets Woo-gyeom and tells him to present his research in court. Woo-gyeom tells him that there's a red notebook at his clinic in which all of his research is written. Han-jun immediately goes to the clinic, but the notebook isn't there. Just then, a YouTuber comes there to shoot a blog. Han-jun grabs him. But nothing comes of that either. Then Han-jun's ex-secretary returns and takes on the task of convincing the survivors. This time, Sung-woo's mother agrees, but she hands over a letter, one written by Woo-gyeom. The letter contains threats, and the blood cancer patient had received the same letter, which is why he too becomes willing to come to court. Seeing this, Han-jun becomes angry and says, "You forced the witnesses. In court, they could speak against you too." Woo-gyeom says he had no other way to get them to court. On the other side, Chaeyeon makes an aggressive move too. She has Woo-gyeom isolated in prison, and now the time for the court hearing arrives. First, Sung-woo's mother testifies that for 18 years her son couldn't walk, and after Woo-gyeom's injection, he stood up and began to walk. But in cross-examination, Chaeyeon turns the whole game around. She proves that Sung-woo never had polio at all, but rather a similar disease that is curable. A doctor also confirms that he had not polio, but Segawa disease. The symptoms of the two are so similar that even doctors get confused. But this disease is curable, meaning it was no miracle cure. Han-jun's first witness fails. Now the second witness comes, the blood cancer patient. But he comes not on Han-jun's side but on Chaeyeon's, and he shocks everyone. He says that Woo-gyeom is a fraud. His cancer has come back. Han-jun's case grows weak. After the hearing, Han-jun stops him and asks him for the truth. The man says he isn't lying. His cancer really has come back. And Chaeyeon overhears this from a distance. Then she remembers something important. When Woo-gyeom was arrested, he'd warned that his patients shouldn't be treated by any other doctor. And here, the blood cancer patient had later continued hospital treatment. Perhaps that's why the cure's effect wore off. Whereas Sung-woo took no other treatment and is still well to this day. In other words, Woo-gyeom's cure does work, but only by his rules. In the end, an intense confrontation takes place between Han-jun and Woo-gyeom. The case is slipping from their hands. So Woo-gyeom says, "Do you want to know the real reason for my murders?" Looking straight into Han-jun's eyes, he says, "I'll prove my ability in court, and the cure is with me." This isn't just a statement but a challenge. as if he's openly provoking the system. On the other side, Chaeyeon is also feeling pressure from her personal life. Her father comes to see her and tells her to drop this case and join the company. But for Chaeyeon, this isn't just a case, it's her identity. She flatly refuses. Here, Han-jun shares with his wife a decision that could change everything. He wants Woo-gyeom to treat Min-soo. Hearing this, his wife becomes angry and says, "How can you trust a killer?" And she refuses to allow it. Chaeyeon plays a political move too, pushing an assemblyman to go on TV and strengthen public opinion against Woo-gyeom. On TV, he not only targets Woo-gyeom, but also digs into Han-jun's personal life, indirectly threatening him, either drop the case or resign from the law firm. But Chaeyeon herself is also frustrated with her team. When she learns that her colleagues had given the assemblyman, Baek, a script, she becomes angry that they had shifted the focus away from Woo-gyeom and onto Han-jun. Here, Han-jun devises a counter-strategy too. Through reporter Joe, he pushes a narrative asking whether the people Woo-gyeom killed were themselves criminals and murderers. A moral question is thrown before the public. Then, in court, Han-jun demands that Woo-gyeom's medical demonstration be allowed. He argues that Woo-gyeom is not an ordinary killer, but also a medical genius. Han-jun presents 3 points. First, that Woo-gyeom targeted only criminals. Second, that he harmed no innocent person. And third, the most shocking, that Woo-gyeom himself is a cure. His blood is the cure. The courtroom is thrown into an uproar. Han-jun tells the judge that Woo-gyeom's blood carries a mutation that can heal incurable diseases, and that he can prove it through a demonstration. Chaeyeon immediately pushes back, but Han-jun challenges her directly, saying, "Or perhaps you're afraid that it will actually work." Now, outside, the media surround Han-jun, asking what he'll do if the demonstration fails. Without thinking, Han-jun says that then he'll resign from his law firm. On the other side, Chaeyeon makes her stance clear too. Giving a killer a chance would be an injustice to the victims. Then she gives Detective Kang an important task. Woo-gyeom couldn't have done all this alone. There's someone else behind him, and they have to find out who. And clues do turn up that someone else was involved with Woo-gyeom, helping him. Chaeyeon has Woo-gyeom's visitor list, medical history, and call records all pulled up. Here, Han-jun tries to understand Woo-gyeom's past more deeply. He meets the doctor who had treated Woo-gyeom during his coma. The doctor tells him something important. A blood mutation is possible, but a permanent cure is highly unlikely. The chances of that being possible are very slim. At the next day's court hearing, Chaeyeon uses this very point. She presents a forensic report which clearly states that Woo-gyeom's blood is not safe and that his experiments were nothing but brutal murders. She demands the death penalty, but Han-jun counters, saying that the forensic report could be wrong, while the international US report is positive, and he again demands a demonstration. The judge postpones the decision until the next hearing. Amid all this, Detective Kang continues the investigation, and a shocking discovery is made. A man is found dead in Woo-gyeom's house, with a deep cut across his throat. Now the day of the final hearing arrives. The court carefully considers all the evidence. The judge accepts that Woo-gyeom's intention was to treat patients, meaning there was good intention behind his actions. But there's no solid proof that any patient was permanently cured by his treatment. On that basis, the court rejects Woo-gyeom's demand for a medical demonstration, and the final verdict is delivered. For 17 murders, Woo-gyeom receives the death penalty. A heavy silence falls over the courtroom. There's satisfaction on Chaeyeon's face, as if she has delivered justice. Han-jun stands there as though everything has slipped from his hands, and Woo-gyeom begins to tap softly on the table. In his eyes, there's not anger, but a strange sort of confidence. Leaving the court, Han-jun tells the judge to at least give Woo-gyeom one chance for a medical demonstration. But the judge's decision is straightforward. What matters is protecting people from him, not proving his treatment. And from here, hope has almost ended for Han-jun. On the other side, Chaeyeon learns something shocking. The judge and the director of her department are old classmates, and perhaps this whole decision had been influenced by the director beforehand. But among the public, the demand for Woo-gyeom's medical demonstration has begun to grow. People want to know whether Woo-gyeom can really cure incurable diseases. Here, Han-jun meets Woo-gyeom and says they'll have to change the decision at the next trial, or everything will be over. Woo-gyeom calmly asks, what if they don't allow the demonstration at all? Han-jun's answer is simple. Then they'll use the backup plan. And from here, a dangerous plan begins. Meanwhile, Han-jun meets his daughter, Min-soo. She was looking even weaker. Her condition was getting worse. Min-soo says just one simple thing. "Papa, why don't you stay with me?" This line breaks Han-jun inside, but it makes him even more determined. Reporter Kang Min brings new information. The dead body found at Woo-gyeom's house was named Ha Se-go. He was also a medical researcher and, together with Woo-gyeom's professor, was running a research institute. In other words, Woo-gyeom wasn't alone. Behind him was an entire research chain. Chaeyeon reaches that institute, which has been closed for quite some time now. She spots a man running away from there. Chaeyeon chases him, but he manages to escape. Chaeyeon then has the CCTV footage pulled. In prison, Woo-gyeom is shifted to a new cell where 3 prisoners already are. One of them had had his brother killed by Woo-gyeom for his research. Now night falls. Everyone is asleep. And suddenly the 3 of them attack Woo-gyeom. A knife plunges straight into his chest. But in the chaos, they accidentally injure another prisoner more badly. Woo-gyeom collapses, drenched in blood, and loses consciousness. He's rushed to the hospital, and the doctors begin treating him. But Woo-gyeom insists that he'll treat himself. And here it's revealed that this was all a plan. Han-jun and Woo-gyeom had devised this backup plan together. Woo-gyeom had to get himself hurt so that he could carry out a real-time medical demonstration. The injured prisoner in the hospital has suffered several organ damage, and in front of everyone, Woo-gyeom uses his own blood to treat him. The result? The damage heals completely. The doctors are left shocked, saying they've never seen such a mutation. Han-jun and reporter Jo, watching this now, finally get their proof that Woo-gyeom's blood really works. Now the situation flips completely. The news spreads, and everywhere there's a single headline: "The serial killer saved a prisoner's life." Now the prosecution comes under pressure. The chief prosecutor is forced to speak with the director, and finally a decision is made. The court will officially give Woo-gyeom a chance for a medical demonstration. Here a shocking twist comes. A prosecutor secretly tells Chaeyeon that Han-jun is fighting this case for his daughter. She has Batten disease. And most disturbing of all, on the patient list drawn up for the medical demonstration, Min-soo's name is also there. This becomes an emotional conflict for Chaeyeon, but she doesn't change her stance. Here, Han-jun asks Woo-gyeom about his past, especially about Professor Han. Woo-gyeom becomes uncomfortable and says that he was just his doctor, that's all. But Han-jun feels this isn't the truth, and he begins to doubt him. Chaeyeon confronts Han-jun directly and says, "You're doing all this for your daughter, right?" Now Han-jun's patience snaps, and he says angrily, "You can't understand my situation. My daughter could die at any moment. It makes no difference to me that Woo-gyeom is a serial killer. For me, my daughter's life is simply more important." The next day, a patient is selected for the medical demonstration. Han-jun hopes Min-soo's name will come up, but it doesn't. He's shattered inside. Woo-gyeom is brought to Handam University Hospital. Outside, the public was furious at the sight of him, calling him a killer. Inside, a cancer patient is brought in, and Woo-gyeom uses his own blood for him. The treatment begins, and then everyone has to wait 24 hours. These 24 hours felt like torture for everyone. Meanwhile, Detective Kang brings another shocking detail. He tells them about the man Chaeyeon had encountered at the institute. His name is Shin Go-chong, and he too is a criminal, with records of assault, rape, and murder. And now the most shocking thing, his lawyer is the very director who is Chaeyeon's boss. This means this entire setup too may have been manipulated. Finally, the 24 hours are complete. The doctors check the report, and the result comes. The cancer has completely disappeared. This isn't just a success, but an impossible miracle. And Woo-gyeom gives an evil smile, as if he has not only proven his point, but challenged everything. In the next scene, another powerful person makes an entrance. The chairman of Cha Medical Center, Cha Jong-soo, comes to meet Han-jun directly. Sitting across from Han-jun, the chairman of Cha Medical Center says plainly, "Now that Woo-gyeom has cured the cancer patient, the court won't execute him, so they'll have to bring him into their center. To develop a cure from his blood, he tells Han-jun that Woo-gyeom's cure could save thousands of patients like his daughter." Han-jun's expression turns to anger, as if this wasn't just a medical matter. His daughter had been turned into a case. Without saying anything, he leaves, but outside the media surround him. Reporter Jo and Min Kyung somehow handle the situation, and Han-jun gets away. On the other side, a meeting is going on at the assembly office, where the chief prosecutor asks Chaeyeon directly, "How will you win this case now, when the public has gone over to Woo-gyeom's side?" Chaeyeon's answer is confident. She'll win it through psychology. And then she says a line that defines her personality. "I work for the Republic, not for any individual." Now the day of the final trial arrives. Outside the court, people are still divided. Some regard Woo-gyeom as a hero, and some still see him as a murderer. In the courtroom, Chaeyeon makes her argument. She says that she had met 2 of Woo-gyeom's patients who had been cured, but the truth is that their condition has now become even worse than before. Woo-gyeom has no permanent cure. He's simply lying. She again demands the death penalty. Now it's Han-jun's turn. He calmly explains the situation. Those patients hadn't followed Woo-gyeom's instructions. They took treatment from other doctors, which Woo-gyeom had forbidden, and that's why the effect reversed. Then he makes a bold request that Woo-gyeom be allowed to treat patients whose diseases are incurable. Woo-gyeom, standing to the side, gives a faint smile, as if everything is going according to his plan. The court finally announces its decision. Woo-gyeom will not be executed, but will instead have to perform medical treatment for life, with one condition. If he refuses to perform treatment, he'll receive the death penalty. Han-joon wins the case, but this victory isn't a simple one. Woo-gyeom is now not officially free. He has become part of the system. Cha Medical Center immediately announces that Woo-gyeom will perform treatment at their hospital, in a special facility. On the other side, for Cha-yeon, this was a defeat. Her boss begins to sideline her indirectly. They talk about transferring her, saying that a criminal's future is turning bright while she couldn't do anything. Here, another shocking thing comes to light. The very first name on the patient list is supposed to be Han-joon's daughter, Min-soo. Han-joon comes home and tells his wife that Cha Medical Center has placed Min-soo at the top of the treatment list. His wife asks him, "Then why are you hesitating? If anyone can save her, it's Woo-gyeom." But there's still doubt inside Han-joon. And then an emotional moment comes. Min-soo is sitting on her bed, calling for her dad again and again. Han-joon comes to her, but Min-soo says she can't see anything. Her eyesight is failing. Seeing this, Han-joon breaks down. Meanwhile, reporter Jo and Min-kyung grow suspicious. Why is Cha Medical Center investing so much money in Woo-gyeom? And why is the murder of the researcher who used to work with Woo-gyeom still unsolved? Something very big is going on. Cha-yeon continues her investigation. She learns that Professor Han used to experiment on patients without consent, and criminal charges had even been filed against him. But the ones who had those charges dropped were none other than Cha-yeon's director Oh and Assemblyman Baek. This means all these people are connected from before. Cha-yeon indirectly confronts the director. "You knew Woo-gyeom from before, right?" But the director tells her to keep quiet. It's clear that some very big secret is hidden here. On the other side, a secret meeting is going on at Cha Center. The chairman and major investors were discussing how, together with Woo-gyeom, a new drug could be developed that would control the market, and how they could earn huge profits from this drug. And then it's revealed that this isn't just a medical project. It's a massive business plan, an organized medical scam involving powerful people. All of it is being controlled by an invisible mastermind. Here, Cha-yeon meets Han-joon and warns him that all these people are connected from before. Woo-gyeom isn't alone. Han-joon's doubt grows even stronger. Meanwhile, Woo-gyeom checks the patient list, but Min-soo's name isn't on it. Before he can make sense of it, guards come and take him away. Here, Han-joon gets a call from the hospital. The doctors say that Min-soo's symptoms will get worse. The hallucinations will increase, and the more they increase, the shorter her life will become. Hearing this, Han-joon and his wife completely break down. On the other side, Cha-yeon meets the chairman and questions him about Professor Han's past. All the connections slowly begin to become clear. And then Woo-gyeom finally meets Professor Han. The professor shows him something on a phone, and Woo-gyeom gives an evil smile. Professor Han shows Woo-gyeom a detailed map of Cha Medical Center and tells him to memorize it. Looking into his eyes, Woo-gyeom asks just one question. "Everything's ready, isn't it?" Professor Han's answer is direct. He has come this far by putting his own life at risk. He's also paid off security. The CCTV will be shut off. Then he reminds Woo-gyeom not to forget his promise. Woo-gyeom says, "For now, go hide at my house and come back on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Professor Han leaves, but a black car is following him. On the other side, Cha-yeon asks the chairman of Cha Medical Center directly, "You people used to experiment on patients without consent, right?" Surprisingly, the chairman agrees, but justifies his side, saying they experiment in the name of treatment, and that before experimenting on Woo-gyeom, they had even obtained consent from his mother. Cha-yeon doesn't find his statement convincing at all, and then an important doubt enters her mind. When Woo-gyeom was in a coma, his mother had already died. So who gave the consent? She immediately calls Detective Kang to have Woo-gyeom's house investigated again. Here, Woo-gyeom calmly continues treating his patient. On the other side, reporter Jo and Min-kyung investigate in Woo-gyeom's neighborhood. There they come across a strange detail. If Woo-gyeom's mother died of a heart attack, then how was her body found in a lake? Something doesn't add up. Reporter Jo suddenly feels uneasy, as if someone is watching them, and they leave. Here, Cha-yeon and Detective Kang reach Woo-gyeom's house. Kang stops her, saying they shouldn't go inside without a warrant. That's the legal thing. But Cha-yeon was not going to stop. She orders the door to be broken down. Just then a man runs out from inside the house. Cha-yeon chases him, but in the middle of the chase she falls, and the man escapes. And it's shockingly revealed that the man was none other than Professor Han. Everyone sits down together to discuss. Min-kyung asks about the past of Woo-gyeom's mother, And here, Chaeyeon learns a shocking truth. His mother never even knew that Woo-gyeom was in a coma. She had been searching for him, thinking he was missing, putting up posters and even filing a police complaint. She had fallen into depression and was last seen near a library. In other words, her death too is suspicious. Here, Han-jun is sitting beside his daughter, recalling the promise he made to her. Just then, Min-soo's condition suddenly worsens. The doctors rush in. The situation becomes critical. Han-jun stands watching helplessly. Time is slipping out of his hands. On the other side, Cha Medical Center tries to recreate the cure from Woo-gyeom's notes, but clearly they can't reach that level. Woo-gyeom waits for Thursday 2 o'clock, but Professor Han doesn't come. Reporter Joe investigates and finds out that the black car belonged to Cha Medical Center, meaning Professor Han was being tracked. Hearing all this, Han-jun takes a bold step. He meets Chaeyeon and offers a deal. I'll give you all of Woo-gyeom's history, from childhood until now. In return, I need access to the prosecution database and all the information on Cha Medical Center. Now the two enemies come over to the same side. Chaeyeon is about to be transferred. Before that, she treats Detective Kang and her team to a meal. In the middle of the conversation, a shocking connection is revealed. Detective Kang used to work with Director Oh. And when Chaeyeon checks the case concerning Woo-gyeom's mother, that case too had been closed by Detective Kang. From here, suspicion shifts directly onto Kang. Kang calls an unknown person to meet secretly. Here, Han-jun's team also gets to work investigating. They learn that Professor Han's illegal experiment case had been closed by Director Oh, and that Assemblyman Beck was involved in it too. This means Cha Medical Center, the government, and the legal system are all interconnected. It's a very large network. Han-jun divides up the plan. Reporter Joe is to track down Professor Han, and Min Kyung is to investigate Assemblyman Beck. Then a dark flashback is shown. The current chairman of Cha Medical Center, as a child, kills his own father while he was on a hospital bed. In the present, Woo-gyeom is taken to Hana Medical Center for the treatment of a new patient. Everything seems under control. Just then, Chaeyeon gets a call from Detective Kang. She reaches the place where Woo-gyeom used to conduct his experiments, and there Professor Han's dead body is found. Kang says that his death had occurred 2 days earlier, meaning that on the very day he had fled the house, someone had killed him right after. Chaeyeon hadn't yet recovered from the shock when another call comes. Woo-gyeom has disappeared in the middle of the medical demonstration. Here we see that Han-jun is driving his car, with Woo-gyeom sitting in the passenger seat, perfectly silent, as if everything is under his control. Here we're shown a flashback in which Han-jun is utterly broken. He kneels before Woo-gyeom and says, "Please save my daughter." Woo-gyeom tells him that he'll help, but on one condition. Han-jun will have to trust him completely. On the other side, Professor Han is caught alive and brought directly before Chairman Jang-soo. Desperate, he says that he can create the cure, but for that, Woo-gyeom must stay alive. But to Jang-soo, Woo-gyeom isn't a human being but an asset. He gives an order, and Shin-ho kills Professor Han right there. Here, Prosecutor Chaeyeon doesn't sit quietly either. She meets the chief, who was secretly Assemblyman Baek's man. In exchange for a deal, the chief reveals a shocking truth. The idea of the incurable disease cure had actually started with Jang-soo's father. A flashback shows that the very first experiment subject was young Jang-soo himself. In the present, Jang-soo takes off his shirt, and there were many surgical scars on his body. Now, Woo-gyeom and Jang-soo come face to face. Woo-gyeom says that each time the blood is used, its effect is diminishing. Why can't you create it without me? So, no matter what, they'll have to keep him alive. Woo-gyeom is shifted to Hana Hospital for the treatment of a rare disease patient. Here, Chaeyeon continues her investigation. She learns that the clinical trials were never officially proven, that the consent forms were fake, and that a whistleblower had even exposed all of this earlier. But Assemblyman Beck had buried the case at the time. Min Kyung exposes another player. Beck had raised funds by setting up a fake company. This means the entire system is steeped in corruption. Now Chaeyeon has strong evidence. She threatens Director Oh that if he doesn't sign the warrant, she'll expose everything. Now everything shifts toward Hana Hospital. With Woo-gyeom, there's a guard who has already gone missing. With his help, Han-jun sneaks into the hospital. As soon as the treatment is complete, the electricity in the entire hospital suddenly goes out, and using this moment, Woo-gyeom cuts off his ankle monitor and flees with Han-jun. Now an intense car chase begins. Shin-ho chases them. Han-jun wants to reach Min-soo, but suddenly Shin-ho hits their car. Woo-gyeom is badly injured. The situation starts spiraling out of control. Out of desperation, Han-jun calls reporter Joe, and they somehow distract Shin-ho's men. Now, finally, he somehow reaches Min-soo. Inside the room, Jae is waiting. Han-jun and Jae wanted to treat Woo-gyeom first, but Woo-gyeom refuses. Even in a half-conscious state, He injects his blood into Min-soo and immediately passes out himself. Everyone waits, and then a miracle happens. Min-soo recovers completely. For Han-jun, this moment is everything. But on the other side, an emergency meeting is going on at Cha Medical Center. The stocks have crashed, Baek has been arrested, and a raid is underway. The board blames Jang-soo. Just then, another shocking reveal comes. The board's real head is Chairman Cha, and he is Cha-yeon's father. Jang-soo asks for one last chance, but control is clearly slipping from his hands. In the next scene, Woo-gyeom regains consciousness, and an emotional conversation takes place with Han-jun. Han-jun says that if they had trusted each other from the start, perhaps everything would be easier today. Woo-gyeom gives a faint smile and says, "You're a good father." But he knows this isn't the end, because he takes Han-jun to a bridge, the very place where his mother had died, and here he reveals his whole truth. The flashback shows that after the accident, Woo-gyeom had been brought to Cha Hospital. Jang-soo and his father were obsessed with creating the cure. They let Professor Han experiment on Woo-gyeom. On the other side was his mother, who was searching for her son. The police wouldn't help, so she investigated on her own. She had uncovered many things, such as illegal experiments and multiple deaths. As soon as she came to know the whole truth, Jang-soo had her killed, and her body was thrown into the river. Hearing all this, Woo-gyeom's revenge becomes clear. Whatever he did with a purpose. In the present, Jang-soo comes onto the bridge. He insults Han-jun and Woo-gyeom, calling them selfish. Woo-gyeom, in a rage, tries to kill him, but Shin-ho stops him. Then Jang-soo suddenly changes his tone, saying, "Let's work together again." Woo-gyeom thinks for a few seconds and suddenly grabs him by the throat, saying, "You're not a victim. You're a monster." But Jang-soo reveals something more. "I wasn't a victim. I myself gave consent to my father for the experiments to be done on me. I was proud of it." Hearing this, Woo-gyeom becomes even more furious. Just then the police arrive. Cha-yeon arrests Jang-soo with the evidence. Han-jun tries to stop Woo-gyeom, but Woo-gyeom says it's too late now. As he goes to kill Jang-soo, a cop fires a shot. Han-jun jumps in between, and the bullet hits him. Han-jun looks at Woo-gyeom and says, "Stop." Woo-gyeom breaks down. He tells Cha-yeon to take care of Han-jun, and then he moves toward Jang-soo. A second shot is fired. This time, it hits Woo-gyeom, and he falls off the bridge into the water below. Everyone is left standing in shock. This seems like the end, but the story doesn't finish here. Later, Director Oh finally cooperates and reveals that Chairman Cha, too, may be involved behind all this. Cha-yeon doesn't hesitate for even a second and says that if her father is guilty, then he too must be punished. Jang-soo is arrested with the evidence, the illegal experiments, the multiple murders. Everything is exposed. Justice is finally served. Cha-yeon goes to Woo-gyeom's grave. To the world, he's dead. But one last twist remains. Han-jun gets Woo-gyeom's blood sample. He's just about to destroy it when he receives a call. A voice comes from the other end. Han-jun smiles faintly. And with that, the series comes to an end here. So guys, do let us know in the comments how you liked this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. So now, see you in the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.